and then when sitting down to enjoy a piece of entertainment, you might catch a phrase in the credits that is designed to absolve the writers of any strange happenstances. Something along the lines of any similarity to actual events or persons living or dead is purely coincidental. Sometimes though, those coincidences are so remarkable you have to wonder if somebody knew something they shouldn't. I'm Si for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 times video games accurately predicted the future. Number 10. Elite Dangerous finds a real star system before NASA. For all of human history and knowledge, and despite passionate people who spend their lives studying it, understanding and unravelling the truths of outer space is still a slow process. In February 2017, astronomers discovered a new system of planets orbiting a star called TRAPPIST-1. Even finding one star is something to be excited about, but for NASA to discover a system of 7 planets that seemed similar to our own was a real moment in astronomy. Except someone had beaten them to it. Sort of. Elite Dangerous is a spacefaring adventure title that, by its very nature, needs to have a vast universe for its players to explore. As such, Frontier developers used an algorithm of pre-existing space data to plot out their solar system. Upon the discovery of TRAPPIST-1, the devs looked into their game's map and found that their algorithm had pretty much already put it there. 39 light years away from Earth, which in a relative sense is pretty close to TRAPPIST-1's 39.5 light years, there was a brown dwarf star and several planets around it. NASA, boldly going where video game algorithms have gone before. Number 9. Metal Gear 2 predicts algae-based fuel. In 1990 top-down action title Metal Gear 2, Snake is sent to Zanzibar Island after a group of terrorists kidnaps Dr. Keo Marv. Dr. Marv is somewhat of a genius and has been working on alternate fuel solutions since the world of Metal Gear is in dire jeopardy thanks to seriously low reserves of oil. His brilliant scheme is to use genetically engineered algae, which he calls Oilix, and convert it into fuel. Kojima didn't just pick algae on a whim though, it was based on studies he had no doubt seen during the late 80s into the species Botryococcus brawni. Scientists had noted that the microalgae's genetic makeup was similar to crude oil. Over the years this research bore success, and in 2012 multiple companies were selling algae-based fuel to the public. In 2017 the microalgae biofuel market was estimated to be worth $4.7 billion, with predictions that it could double by 2024. Despite the cost of fuel production, research into algae and what makes it a viable replacement for oil could provide the stepping stones needed for the future. Hopefully not a future with giant mech death robots and nanomachines, but at this point who can say. Number 8. Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 predicts 9/11. The cover arts for Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 sees Russian-American actor, and I'm going to butcher this, Igor Jajekin staring stoically at the player. It's memorable in its own nostalgic way, but it's also quite unremarkable. Some variations also feature New York skyline also in the backdrop. However, the original artwork for Red Alert 2 was all New York and no Soviet soldier. He's been placed on the box to essentially cover up the game's controversial coincidence. With the game centering on a fictional war between Allies and Soviets, Red Alert 2 specifically involves a storyline of the invasion of America. As such, developers Westwood Pacific went for a striking image of a bombing rush on America's east coast. This meant a plane flying amongst New York skyscrapers and an explosion swallowing the buildings, most prominently with the World Trade Center in the middle. Red Alert 2 released in October 2000, less than a year before planes were flown into the Twin Towers in the most shocking terrorist attack on the Western world. As such, all future releases of the game featured our Russian friend instead, and EA even supplied retailers with replacement covers for their previous stock. Number 7. Deus Ex Human Revolution foretells Canadian politics. Like the previous entry, the original Deus Ex also mentions the destruction of the Twin Towers. However, this 2000 action RPG actually omitted the World Trade Center from its skyline to reduce strain on the game's memory, and then, in an optional note, explains that it was the result of a terrorist attack. That's spooky, but to cover new ground, we're going to focus on Deus Ex Human Revolution instead. Despite being a prequel to the original game, this title actually still takes place in our future in the year 2037. As such, it makes several bold predictions. Cybernetic implants don't seem that far-fetched at this point, but nobody really saw the game's political expectations coming true. In the game, Justin Trudeau has been elected Prime Minister of Canada, and in the real world this came true 4 years later. In 2011, when Human Revolution was released, Trudeau was a popular figure, but certainly not necessarily in the running for political candidacy, especially since he had abstained from running for party leadership in 2008. It seems that developers just picked a politician and either by luck or pattern recognition saw it come true. Number 6. Smash TV predates the rise of reality TV. Television now is in a very different place than where it was 30 years ago. Even aside from the rise in streaming, actual terrestrial programming has changed so much. In particular, around the turn of the millennium, the landscape of TV totally shifted thanks to shows like The Bachelor and Survivor. Reality TV, being unscripted or just framed that way, gripped the world in the 2000s, and it hasn't ever really let go, merely evolved. And one particular arcade game pretty much told us it was coming, albeit their version was a tad more violent. In 1990's Smash TV, players are contestants on a game show run by the powerful benefactor Master of Ceremonies. They must survive waves of enemies, proceeding through rounds until the end in front of a live studio audience and with their attempt streamed out to the world via satellite. Now that might sound like a far cry from eating snacks and gossiping in the Big Brother house, but consider that reality TV, so-called unscripted entertainment and competition, was still a decade away. The game takes place in the not-so-distant future of 1999, a year before the first ever round of contestants entered the Big Brother house. We should probably be thankful they weren't given laser cannons in that house, then again it certainly would have made things more interesting. Number 5. Death Stranding gives a prophecy of 2020's isolation. 2019's Death Stranding was a chance for former Metal Gear director Hideo Kojima to start fresh, but one thing that he couldn't get away from was his propensity for predictions. For those who haven't played it, the game takes place in a post-apocalyptic Earth, where our understanding of life, death, and the places between are wildly different. So-called beached things have arrived in our world, and they are invisible creatures that, upon contact, explode like a nuclear weapon, and also bring with them a kind of acid rain that rapidly ages human beings. Understandably then, what remains of humanity has gone into hiding in tiny communities and heavily depend on couriers like Sam Bridges who brave the outside world. Hang on a minute, hiding from the outside world for fear of something that can't be seen and relying on delivery people? That sounds an awful lot like what happened to pretty much every person in 2020. As such, Death Stranding, which had been released less than 6 months before the world went into lockdown, was seen by many as a morose reflection of their real-life situation. When asked if he had predicted the COVID-19 pandemic, Kojima simply responded, "If I was a prophet, I would have been able to make a higher-selling game." Still, jokes aside, Kojima admitted that his writing on the sequel genuinely saw him deliberately trying not to predict the future next time. Number 4. Madden predicts the Super Bowl winner regularly. Not just a super successful sports game series, Madden has become a bit of an institution in its own right. As with every title released by EA Sports, Madden has an annual release, but it also has an annual slice of easy marketing. When February rolls around and the Super Bowl with it, it's become a tradition for the game to run its own official prediction. This has become free marketing for the game, with last year's prediction delivered by Beast Mode himself, former Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch. It all started with Super Bowl 38. The game correctly predicted that the Patriots would beat the Panthers, and it was just a silly bit of fun. And then things got spooky. This started a hot streak where Madden correctly predicted the winner of the Super Bowl for 4 years in a row. The most amazing moment in Madden's NFL predicting career, however, has to be Super Bowl 49, where it not just foretold that the Patriots would beat the Seahawks, it even got the exact score of 28-24 perfect. As of the previous 2022 event, Madden has predicted 11 out of 19 results correctly for a lifetime total of 57.89% accuracy, which might sound less impressive these days, but it's a lot better than most. Number 3. Homefront foretells the rise of Kim Jong-un. Many war-focused games go for alternate or splintering history to tell their tales so that they can use the real world but twist it in a way to tell their own stories. Homefront, a 2011 title from Chaos Studios, set itself in a ravaged America after a united Korean invasion. The events really kick off in 2012 with the death of Kim Jong-il, who passes away suddenly. In his stead, his son, Kim Jong-un, uses this moment to unify North and South Korea and, putting their differences aside, take aim and invade the United States of America. Now, the idea of the two Koreas unifying seems pretty unlikely over a decade later, but the rest of that is near enough spot on. In December 2011, less than a year after the game released and just weeks before their prediction of 2012, Kim Jong-il died of an unexpected heart attack. More than that, picking the dictator's youngest son to succeed him was something that nobody expected, except apparently the writers of Homefront. It might also be worth noting that in this timeline, the conditions in America get worse due to a financial crisis and an Asian bird flu epidemic in 2022, which shockingly isn't too far off the mark either. Number 2. Soul Hackers predicts the metaverse. Virtual reality worlds aren't exactly a new idea, but in most mediums, the question of their origin isn't a pressing matter, it's more about the fun you can have within it. Therefore, Soul Hackers posits an alternate world that is very specifically owned and delivered by a mega corporation, in this case, Algonsoft. A spin-off from the Shin Megami Tensei series, Devil Summoner Soul Hackers is set in the fictional Amani City, a super city that requires the use of ID for every citizen so that they can interact with the town's hyper-electronic way of life. More than that, Paradigm X is a virtual world specifically built for the entertainment and enjoyment of the town, featuring shops and movie theatres. Considering Soul Hackers is now over 25 years old, it's remarkable that it sounds exactly like the most recent advancements in technology. Meta Platform's Metaverse has aimed to be exactly this, and has even featured virtual concerts, proving that there is at least some interest in online events like this. Paradigm X is also only interactable with Algonsoft's very own electric currency, predating the rise of crypto by well over a decade. The word crypto does actually feature in the game too, although it just so happens to be the name of a computer chip in every home PC that devours your soul, so let's hope that that's where the game's similarities to the real world end. Number 1. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance makes America great again. Hideo Kojima makes it a hat-trick for this list, although honestly we probably could have used him for all 10 entries. For example, for a bonus point, how about the entire plot of Metal Gear Solid 2 coming true? Not only does that game feature the Patriot Act, which was signed around the same time as the game's release, but its framing of misinformation and echo chambers seems incredibly poignant in today's world. Still, that particular point seems a little overdone, not to mention so accurate that it's scary to talk about, so instead let's look at the beloved bombastic villain of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, Senator Armstrong. Again, this prediction comes true through a combination of luck and pattern recognition. Despite former President Trump denying otherwise, there's that misinformation again. His "Make America Great Again" catchphrase was actually something that Ronald Reagan said during his presidential race. Still, Armstrong belting out those infamous 4 words during a showdown with the player certainly looks weird in retrospect. Not to mention that, but Armstrong's persona as a populist with far too much money in his bank account makes him eerily similar to the 45th President of the United States, before even taking into account that at one point he essentially says that his side has the better memes. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below. Which of these predictions blew your mind? And of course, let us know of any others that we missed. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Head over to WhatCulture.com for more content every day. I've been Cy for WhatCulture, and have a good week.